Hey friends, this is Simone. I am here to share day 11 of the 2020 Planner Advent that I have been doing with my friends Amanda, Ellie, John, and Dakshina. We have been sharing a video every day in December. Each one of us is going to share 5, and so you will have 25 videos up until Christmas Day to watch and enjoy. So, today, my topic is talking about my my lineup that I had in 2020, how it actually worked for me. Am I switching things up? What did I learn this year using those planners? And what am I going to change in 2021? I have decided in the beginning of the year that one of the main focuses that I would have is to use what I have. Also, to not box myself into rules that work well for a while and then start to stress me and make the creative process, the planning that I'm doing, less enjoyable because I think I have to do it exactly this way. I'm still working on that because when you hear me talk, you will definitely see or hear that. What didn't you say you didn't want to make such fixed rules? Yeah, I really struggle with that. Um, I have noticed that and I'm trying to work through it, but it's definitely not something that will change from now until tomorrow. That is a very long process, and I will always fall into this trap. The good thing or the hard thing, the positive thing is that I recognize it and try to um, work through it instead of staying right there. So, for planning, in 2020, I used a Stalogy A6 from January until June. I finished the whole book. I used it for my monthlies. I used it for cleaning, for my budget, incoming and outgoing. I used it for my YouTube workflow and YouTube schedule, and I used it for notes and definitely my daily and weekly to-dos. Um, I used a standard Midori traveler's notebook in brown for my reference notebook. This notebook contained mostly what you would usually find in a bullet journal collections, things that will survive a planner for longer than the planner actually exists. I used a Passport Midori traveler's notebook in camel size for my goals planning. It contained my word of the year, aspirations, goals that I derived from those, uh, a, a list of my monthly highlights, accomplishments, and challenges, and another overview of the whole year of my incoming and outgoing, totaled up the money so that I could see how well I did each month. I also used the Hobonichi Weeks Tokyo Tower. I actually started that in the end of December, the end of 2019. I pasted in pages and made it last longer, so I think I started in the beginning of November. And I used that for documenting. I absolutely enjoy creating these weekly spreads where I write down what we did each day using character stickers with it and creating clusters with embellishments and stickers and stuff. So that was what I was using the Hobonichi Weeks for. And then once the Stalogy was done, I debated for a while between using what I have in my stash or getting a Hobonichi Cousin avec from the Buy Sale Trade group on Facebook because I had been really wanting to use one inspired by mitts from My Life Mitts. And as I said, instead of I I had like two things that I wanted to do: use things that I have or box myself in. I decided to go for it because when, if not now, was the right time. Uh, we were still living in a pandemic. I didn't really have anything to do, so why not use a Hobonichi cousin now when I probably have the most time in my life to see how it works. Now, what happened in in the Stalogy? The pandemic happened. That was the big thing that happened to some of my planners. The effect that it had on the Stalogy was that I didn't really have anything to do anymore, but I started to feel very, very limited in the weeks. I wanted to write down more things that happened, and so I used the Stalogy for that. Um, I I really didn't like using the monthlies in the A6. It was too tiny, and why? Because I was using the A6 for journaling, I felt like I would like to be more creative. So switching to the A5 was was great in that aspect. The reference notebook, I noticed when I was actually using it for a while that I need this to be more flexible. Being a bound book has limits, especially when you want to recreate a list and because it doesn't work that way like the workflow that I used for my weekly review. I changed it. Do I rip out the page? What do I do? So that needed to be changed. The goals notebook actually worked perfectly. Size, paper, what I have in there is mwah. So I'm going to continue using that. I was using the weeks to use as a journal, like Dear Diary style. I would write down when I had problems with one of my kids, when I felt super tired, um, and on top of the documenting, and that was so condensed. It was so full, and yeah, again, the pandemic happened. We started to foster cats, and something fell off, and that was the first thing that went. But I really, really loved it, and I pulled it back out in November to try and use it again. And I actually am using it right now and want to maybe catch up. The Hobonichi Cousin worked really well. I loved using this for journaling and documenting, but I noticed once I got back into work, I worked more, I had more to dos. I was responsible for checking my kids' progress in distance learning. The house doesn't clean itself, so the to do lists would get longer and longer, and I didn't have enough space for journaling. So that fell off the wayside. That just didn't work, and so I started to use a little notebook for my to do list, and I I loved using it for journaling. The paper is amazing, but the weekly spreads are really very, very time consuming. They look amazing and I love them. Um, but I don't want to do them every week. I want to have the option to say, oh, I am super inspired to do this week. Then I can create a weekly layout in a notebook. And then in 2 months, I want to do this again. So that just is taking so much time of my life right now that I don't want to dedicate to these weekly spreads. I learned that A5 is a really great size for me in various different ways. I learned that I need flexibility for the reference notebook. I love the weeks for documenting because it's just so small and tiny. I can document 1 week in an hour. I don't like daily pages or dated pages in a creative Dear Diary type journal because what if I need 5 pages to pour my heart out, but the date says today you only have 1 page? Tomorrow I don't have anything to say. but that doesn't work. That is something, as I said, those rules and stuff. I was able to like branch out and not apply the dates in this notebook, but I'm not sure if I can do this for a whole year. So I decided to switch it up and go a different route. I really enjoy having some of the planning things in a different notebook so that when I write my to-do list, I can put it next to each other. I can lay the monthly and the cleaning list next to my to-do list and just copy it and not flip back and forth. That is a really huge thing that I realized this year. And I also want to have time for other creative projects, and that's what the main reason why I'm not using the Hobonichi Kaizen avec, because I really have to stay on top of those weekly or daily spreads in order to be able to have a completed thing, and that's something that I really struggle with. I want to use the things that I have and not have empty pages. So I don't want to set myself up for failure, rather for success. And I really like to knit and maybe make a spread in a traveler's notebook just because I want to and not always think about the things that I have to do in another notebook. So in 2021, I will use the Midori Passport Traveler's Notebook in the camel size for my goals, as I just explained it to you earlier. I am using the Pocket Traveler's Notebook from Chic Sparrow. I actually don't know what type it is. I just traded it for a different notebook cover, and it's the only one I have in that size, so I use that one for planning, for my weekly and daily to-do lists, for my trackers that actually work for the very first time in a long time. And I'm going to ride that wave until it's over. I use sticky notes, and I think the reason why they work is because I can move that sticky note with me throughout the week, and when the week is done, I can use a different tracker for the next week. And I also want to try and use the Hobonichi Weekly Supplement. That notebook is so cheap that even if I don't use it, it's not a big loss. I'm using the Filofax A5 Original Duck Egg for planning and references. I'm using it for my monthlies, for my next actions list, and my monthly ideas. It's just a list of things that I think of that I don't have to tend to right away, that when I do my weekly review and it's just an idea, I move it to that list, and at the end of the month I look at it again and think when, what I need to do with this thought or idea. And then it contains my YouTube schedule. Did I say that already? My lists that were in the other notebook, like the weekly review, birthdays, meals, all that stuff that I reference when I'm planning or when I'm doing, meal planning is a planning type as well, but that I don't need to be in my planner. I use it for my projects, planning out my projects, notes, all that, and for like not planning information, but more school phone numbers, for what else? Car information, information that I need to reference, medical information, all that stuff. I am going to use a Hobonichi Kaizen, but not an avec, not a regular one book, but I'm going to use the Day Free. It will give me, the reason why I think it might work is that I don't have dated pages, so I can use it whenever I want to. I can use 5 pages today and not use it until next Monday, and not have dates that ask why didn't you fill this in for the last 5 days? I can use it for my journal, for notes, for creative endeavors, for these kinds of spreads. Um, I will use the monthlies to just quickly jot down what I did each day in order to be able to use the Hobonichi weeks for documenting. This way, if I fall behind for some reason, I have the monthlies in the Kaizen to refer back to at a later date. I'm going to basically use it the same way that I did this year. I really like how compact it is, how it looks when there is like multiple spreads after each other. It's the best. And while you are watching this, let me just say that I was way too quick to use it. The coloring of these notebooks is just way too sloppy and too messy. I should have waited a little bit longer. So that is what I am going to use in 2021. There will be things that I don't know yet, like what am I going to do when my notebook in my pocket traveler's notebook is finished? Am I going to use what I have? Do I still have pocket notebooks? Will I cut them down? Am I going to buy another pocket notebook because that size just works? We will see. The other thing that I'm not sure about is what if I am using so many pages for in the Kaizen that it's gonna be finished before the end of the year. Again, I don't know yet, and I am really glad that I still have that mindset that I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I really need, as I said, need to have more of that open-mindedness, and I'm excited that I don't have a plan yet. What else? There will be clips, I guess you saw them already, of each of those notebooks included in this video. I hope you enjoyed. I think I'm going to film another video just with my 2021 lineup where I show these to you in more depth. I haven't actually touched any of them yet. They're still really naked. The only thing that I did yesterday actually was remove my 2020 weeks and put the 2021 cover on the 2021 weeks on the into the leather cover. Same with my Kaizen Day Free. I think I'm going to swap back to the other Hobonichi cover that I own for the beginning of the year, or I might also I also have a plastic cover from MD because it's still so tiny and thin that it feels kind of lost in the huge cover from Hobonichi. So maybe I'll use the plastic cover first and then move into a Hobonichi cover later on. I have not talked about photos. So one thing that I really enjoy doing is using photos. I have a scrapbooking background. I did Project Life for several years and I haven't really documented with photos. Last in 2020, I fell off in 2019 when I was using a Heisey Swap memory planner, but I really want to do that, and I am. I plan on using chatbooks for 2021 to document family things. Document the way we live right now, document the pandemic, document all the things that happen. And I'm really curious to see how that works out. I actually ordered decided to put my Thursday 3 photos into Chatbooks, and I have the first one right here that I'm just flipping through so that you can see, and I'm really curious to see how that will work for our family scrapbook of sorts. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love if you checked out the other creators that are participating in the Advent. I will see you soon. Until next time, bye.